Good evening, everyone. Welcome. We are so excited to have you here with the Ignatian Spirituality Project at our first ever virtual Company of Grace. My name is Amanda Longay Askew. I am one of the co-executive directors at Harmony, Hope, and Healing, which is a music and wellness organization located in Chicago. And in addition, I have known ISP for so many years. I began as a participant at retreats and over time became a witness, volunteer, and now I'm a board member by this God inspired project. I have also learned so much through my involvement with ISP, and I cannot begin to tell you how many ways it has blessed me. Before we get further into our program, I would like to introduce a few members from our network and invite them to lead us in an opening prayer. Please welcome Maureen Panuco from San Diego, Marlene DeLeon from Boston, and Scott Hanner from Louisville, who will help center us from our shared evening.
As we begin our gathering tonight, let us pause for a moment to take a deep breath, to remember that we are always in the presence of God. We invite you to pray with us tonight, out loud if you feel comfortable, or in the silence of your heart. O God, grant us courage. We do not walk alone.
A prayer for courage. When the light around lessens and your thoughts darken until your body feels fear turn cold as a stone inside.
O God, grant us courage. We do not walk alone.
When you find yourself bereft of any belief in yourself, and all you unknowingly leaned on has fallen, when one voice commands your whole heart, and it is raven dark, steady yourself.
O God, grant us courage. We do not walk alone. For it is promised, we are not alone. We belong to one another. We are held in love. We walk together down the path set before us. O God, grant us courage. We do not walk alone.
We gather the kindling about our hearts to create one spark, all we need to nourish the flame that will transform the dark.
O God, grant us courage. We do not walk alone.
God of light in darkness, give us hope in despair. Give us healing in sorrow. Give us hearts of courage.
O God, grant us courage. We do not walk alone. May we recognize, moment by moment, your deep love for us. May we be empowered by that love to act as your hands and feet in the world. O God, grant us courage. We do not walk alone.
Thank you so much, Maureen, Scott, and Marlene. What a wonderful reminder that we are not alone. And wow, although we can't see one another, we know that tonight we are not alone. As you know, ISP has retreat programs in 29 locations around our network. And tonight we are gathering from all over the United States, Canada, and maybe even Ireland if we have some night owls there. We're gathering from all over as an ISP community to celebrate our mission, to invite men and women recovering from homelessness and addiction to encounter God's love, hope, and healing through spiritual companionship that transforms lives. During this strange and isolating time, we are so grateful you're with us tonight. In fact, go ahead and put in the chat box below where you're watching from tonight. We want to see who's with us. I love the theme tonight. There is courage in love. I found that love almost demands, requires vulnerability, and it takes courage to be vulnerable. It takes courage to open your wounds in the company of strangers. Though there is no pressure or obligation, sometimes seeing someone else with the courage to break free from the fear and talk about things they often have never shared with anyone gives you courage to. That is why our retreat and reflection programs are so important to so many. The retreat experience has fostered so many breakthroughs in so many lives. And hope is that it continues to grow and touch more and more lives every year. And now it is my pleasure to turn it over to Tom Drexler, ISP's Executive Director. Take it away, Tom.
Thanks, Amanda. Hi, everyone. I'm Tom Drexler, the Executive Director of the Ignatian Spirituality Project, and I'm so very happy to be with all of you tonight. These past 7 months, they have been a challenge for all of us in many, many ways. Certainly, ISP has been challenged. I don't have to tell all of you this. You already know it. It has been a tough time. It's been hard not to be able to hold overnight retreats. It's been hard not to be able to gather in an ISP circle, look around the room, and feel the love and support from one another and from a loving God. I want to thank all of our nearly 800 volunteers for hanging in there with us. Whether your program is waiting for overnight retreats to begin again, to be safe, or whether you're offering virtual spiritual reflection via Zoom, or whether you are just reaching out to alumni via text whenever you can, you are the heartbeat of ISP, and we are grateful for your service. When COVID-19 first hit, we started asking ourselves, how do we carry on a ministry that is relevant, engaged, and active? And we haven't stopped asking that question and trying to answer it in creative and realistic ways. I am happy and enormously proud that we have risen to the occasion and have found some of those answers. We all recognize the isolation and loneliness that this year has wrought, and we know it is especially acute for those recovering from homelessness and addiction. To be frank, we are needed now more than ever, and we are committed to responding. Before the pandemic hit, we had set some goals and made some plans for the next 3 years to deepen our relationships with all our constituencies: shelters, transitional housing programs, our volunteer teams, and most importantly, the people we serve. With the onset of the coronavirus, we realized we could not put those plans on hold, but instead, we needed to utilize whatever technology we could: phone calls, text messaging, and the ever-present Zoom to deepen those relationships. The good news is we are laying a strong foundation, and we are strengthening those relationships, and we are prioritizing the types of efforts and technology that will serve us, not just for the next months, but for years to come. The work we've been doing to reach our stakeholders during this unique time will be a part of the transformation of our ministry. We continue to offer spiritual reflection in some of the agencies with which we work. We are in ongoing and close contact with our teams and team leadership, helping them build stronger relationships within the team and with their partner shelters and transitional housing organizations. And last but not least, we will be launching our mobile app called ISP Journey next month. We are thrilled about this new tool, which will allow us to reach our alumni in a new way, providing space for reflection and encouragement. Stay tuned over the next few weeks for more information about the app and how you might use it yourself for your own daily prayer and reflection. Finally, I want to thank the ISP staff for their hard work and express deep gratitude for our many benefactors, so many of whom are with us tonight, who have supported all of this work. With you all by our side, we are poised to remain an active, engaged, and relevant ministry, lighting the path for those who walk with us. We are honored to have Sister Helen Prejean, a spiritual mentor for many of us and a true warrior for justice, with us tonight. Sister Helen is known around the world for her tireless work against the death penalty. She has been instrumental in sparking national dialogue on capital punishment and in shaping the Catholic Church's vigorous opposition to all executions. Born on April 21st, 1939 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, she joined the Sisters of St. Joseph in 1957. After studies in the US and Canada, she spent the following years teaching high school and serving as the religious education director at St. Francis Cabrini Parish in New Orleans before moving into the St. Thomas Housing Project in the early 80s. In 1982, Sister Helen began corresponding with Patrick Saunier, who had been sentenced to death for the murder of 2 teenagers. 2 years later, when Patrick Saunier was put to death in an electric chair, Sister Helen was there to witness his execution. In the following months, she became spiritual advisor to another death row inmate, Robert Lee Willie, who was to meet the same fate as Patrick Saunier. After witnessing the executions, Sister Helen realized that this lethal ritual would remain unchallenged unless its secrecy was stripped away, and so she sat down and wrote a book, Dead Man Walking. The book ignited a national debate on capital punishment and inspired an Academy Award-winning movie, a play, and an opera. Today, Sister Helen continues her work, dividing her time between educating the public, campaigning against the death penalty, counseling individual death row prisoners, and working with murder victims' family members. Her second book, The Death of Innocence, an eyewitness account of wrongful executions, was published in 2004. And her third book, River of Fire, My Spiritual Journey, came out last year. Sister Helen's life's work truly embodies the belief that there is courage in love. Welcome, Sister Helen.
Thank you. I am really so happy to be a part of this. The Ignatian Spirituality Project. You know what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of Jesus's words about the one who gave the feast. And a lot of people were too busy to come or whatever, and went out on the highways and byways and invited anyone that they ran across to be part of the feast. This whole initiative of care and love to reach out to homeless people, to nurture their souls, to nurture their spirits, to connect them in community, to give them a safe place where they can rest and be nourished spiritually, is perhaps the greatest act of respect, more than giving them bread or food or handouts. It is meeting them at the depth level at which we human beings meet each other, at the spiritual level, where the Holy Spirit abides in each of us, and we can meet each other equally as sons and daughters of God. There are a lot of obstacles to doing this kind of work or reaching out with homeless people. It's like a scattershot in a lot of ways. You couldn't have people more. I'm sure the organization of it, when you compare it to giving a retreat like in a parish, is like 1,000-fold greater to try to pull it together. And then it's a free invitation. I'm sure there are many invitations issued and last minute things, of people that don't have a stable place to stay come up. There's great fluidity. The thing I'm comparing it to is Kairos retreats in prisons. You know, when you're in prison, there's no safe place. And you don't dare trust people. In fact, you're wary of any kind of kindness done to you. What favor are they asking of you? And then later, what is it going to mean for you? To be in a safe place where you can be vulnerable, where you can share your inner soul in a safe, loving community that receives you without judgment, and then in turn shares with you. Who's helping who on these retreats? The ones who give the retreats, the ones who participate in the retreats? Because those of us who are privileged, it's easy to have this mindset of, oh, look what we're doing for these poor wretches. They're homeless. So we're going to do a good thing for them. And that's good. That's good. It's good to reach out to people in charity. But also the deep humility to realize that the ones who are going to be on the receiving end, as well as the people making the retreat, are going to be us. It's been my experience of accompanying people on death row these 25, 30 years. I'm thinking of Manuel Ortiz now. I'm called his spiritual advisor. He's going on, it's going to shock you. He's innocent and he's going on 30 years in Louisiana's death row and maintaining his courage and maintaining his faith. I call him my Nelson Mandela. He's innocent as the day is long. You can't believe all the terrible things done to him at his trial and what was hidden and what was lied about in Louisiana. So when I leave Manuel after visiting him, who got helped the most? Whose soul got strengthened the most? Who came away with more courage than I had when I went in? And it's an expenditure, and it's got a price tag on it. A lot of eventualities that take place, a lot of surprises. But hey, at the end of the day, what more would we want to be doing? And what struck me about this is the deep dignity that's in it to invite homeless people to come away and rest a while for a retreat, believing in their inner dignity, their closeness to God, that the Spirit dwells in them just as the Spirit dwells in us, and that we will be nurtured by them as well as they're being nurtured by us in the course of what's going to proceed in the days. Open to God's grace that can do miracles with us. In River of Fire, I talk about, it took me 40 blooming years to wake up that the gospel of Jesus called me to justice. I was in a protected, insulated environment out in the suburbs, doing good stuff. I wasn't one of those mean nuns batting people around with rulers and all that bad stuff, but I wasn't awake to the 50% of the population of New Orleans that lived in the inner city was being beaten up by police, trying to make it on welfare, no health care. And it was right in my own city. And there's a saying from Latin America, what the eye does not see, the heart cannot feel. And I happen to know a little bit about the seeds of this project, of the Ignatian Spirituality Project, because I knew and was involved with Karen Clifton and people in the Trinity Parish there in DC, when the first steps was simply to let homeless people come to Mass and not make them stay outside the church because a lot of them smell bad. I hadn't taken a bath and people go, ooh, we don't want to be near them. And then it was to invite them to Mass and then to coffee and donuts with the rest of the community afterwards. And then I heard they were beginning to do retreats for the homeless. And I remember Karen describing it to me afterwards, saying, oh God, I'm tired. I'm really tired. It took a lot of organizing. But God, what a soul-lifting, inspiring event. I mean, we met Jesus in these people. And we shared and they shared. And now here, look at this wonderful project doing this. We have so many hidden people in our society and people put into exile, in prisons exile. It's called the fourth city with the 2.3 million people in prisons, exiled from family, separated from family, hidden behind prison walls, that number of population in prison is as big as our fourth largest city. What number might we give to hidden right in front of our eyes of all the homeless people in our cities? So I just say, I am really going to be praying and joining my spirit and heart and soul with these retreats that you do. And how did St. Vincent de Paul do it? That maybe if our charity, if our love is great enough, poor people will forgive us for having to reach out to them in charity. They are the representatives. They are the ones who carry Jesus to us in this upside down, consumer driven. Success is in how much you have, how big your house is, how prestigious your job. They have none of those things. All they have is themselves. And is that not a precious thing to share with each other? So may God bless the work of your hands, for all the effort that goes into this. I will be united with you in prayer. Please let me know when the retreats are happening, that I will be unseen, but I want to be present with you when they're happening, and would love to hear some of the fruits that come out of these blessed sharings that'll be going on. Thank you. May God bless the work of our hands.
Thank you so much, Sister Helen. That was wonderful.
Thanks again, Sister Helen, for blessing us with your presence tonight as we continue to consider what it means to find courage in love. Even in times of darkness, we prepared a video sharing some of the many faces and voices of ISP, talking in their own words about what courage and ISP means to them. Please watch with us.
Courage is.
Courage is.
Courage is.
Courage is.
Saying yes to going on a retreat.
The moment that our retreatants arrive at the retreat center, our team goes out to welcome them and embrace them, and to embrace them as sisters.
A lot of the women actually who arrive on Saturday morning who have never made a retreat in their lives, some of them don't even know what a retreat is. And they come very nervous and they tell us, I'm really nervous. What are you guys going to do with us? Just that first step, walking in the door, saying yes to the retreat, is a big step of courage for a lot of the women.
Having the courage to get in a car with someone they never met, going to a place they've never been, sharing their stories, sharing their faith. For me, that seems like that's tremendous courage.
It got me out of my comfort zone. I took the opportunity, and all it's doing is feeding me more and more and more and more.
Courage is
walking with one another.
It's being able to continue to put one foot in front of the other and to have hope.
Moving on in spite of the trials and tribulations you go to.
Courage is
choosing to be vulnerable.
Women sharing and showing their pain and joy, and there's no judgment.
You can come as you are. Let me tell you, if those sisters and the women that come to support that program, overnight retreat, if we had to act a certain way and I couldn't be myself, I don't think I would still be with ISP. They accept me for who I am.
We accept people with open arms. We judge no one.
Courage is
listening for God's voice.
The love that I felt for these women, I knew came from beyond me.
God seems to be telling me all the time, yes, this is what I want you to be doing. This is where I want you to be.
Courage is
asking for help.
When I help someone else, it helps me in the process because it reminds me that I was there at that stage too.
Courage is
sharing my story.
I'm aware of the trust that the retreatants show to the volunteers in sharing their stories.
Oh, it's pretty wonderful. We listen to women's stories.
Sometimes we don't have an answer for people, being able to sit there, listen to them, talk to them.
Through the bond of sharing and prayer.
Being vulnerable to let others know me and to see the real person that God has made me to be today.
Courage is
believing in change.
It has totally transformed me. I can say that for sure.
Women of deep faith, having moved from feeling very judged by God to experiencing God in a more loving way.
ISP has transformed my life. I am no longer the person that I used to be.
ISP has taught me that I do have inner wisdom. I do have something to share. My story is important.
to see them come forward and change is really, it draws me back again and again and again.
I have stayed the course, not by my own merit, but by that power greater than me.
At the end of every retreat, I am just amazed at the transformation that I see not only in our retreatants, but in our team members. I know that this cannot be because of us, although we may be the conduits, but it's really the Holy Spirit's work during the retreat to bring about enormous transformation among all of us. And the proof of this transformation is to see that so many of our retreatants do go on to long-term sobriety, to being reunited with their families, regaining custody of their children, and being gainfully employed, living lives of dignity and worth.
How many times does he say in there, do not be afraid? You know, over and over and over again. It's something worth repeating. For me to repeat anyway, I'll tell you that much. So.
Oh, do not be afraid. What a powerful reminder. Tonight, we have a special guest with us. Jody joins us from our ISP Portland team. Jody is going to share part of her story with us. The heart of our ISP program is sharing our own stories, both the goodness and the brokenness, while finding God in these stories. At the midpoint of our overnight retreat, we have a witness, someone who shares their story with the group and invites the listeners into some of the darkest and most painful places of their lives. This is not always easy, as there are often graphic details that some find hard to hear. But the experience of sharing stories brings us closer to our brothers and sisters around the circle. We find connection, healing, and transformation often takes place right in front of our eyes. We're grateful for Jody's courage and generosity of spirit to share her story with us tonight.
Hi, my name is Jody, and I'd like to tell you a little about my story and how I came to become a part of ISP. I first encountered ISP when I was at a place called Shepherd's Door for addiction recovery and restoration of my life. I was invited to go to a retreat, and I was leery because the last few years had been very hard. I had been addicted to heroin, and I was living in my car after some great trauma in my life. Prior to that, I had been a functioning part of society. I was a court reporter working in a courthouse, married, had a nice house, cars, the whole thing. I didn't have God in my life. And I had a bunch of deaths in mine and my husband's family. And the one that kind of topped it off was my stepdad shot and killed my mom in her sleep and then shot and killed himself. It was a mercy situation. They weren't fighting or anything. She had incurable cancer. She had multiple myeloma. Anyways, my life started in a downward spiral at that time, and through a series of events, I became divorced, lost my house, lost my job, and I also lost my husband. And I was living in my car, and there was a drug dealer that was staying with me in my car. And anyways, I had decided that enough was enough, and I came to Portland and found Shepherd's Door. And while I was there, I was invited to go to the retreat. And as I said before, I was leery, but I went. And when I went, I found these women there, the directors, who invited me in with open arms, accepting, encouraging, and non-judgmental. And when I was there, I shared my story with other like-minded women who were also in similar circumstances as I was and were on the road to recovery. And I discovered that I am not alone, that I belong. And the directors encouraged me to come back and share my story as a witness, which I did. And that's when I became a part of the ISP here in Portland, Oregon for women's retreats. And as a part of that, I still am experiencing encouraging from my teammates and love, and they teach me so much, and I like to pass it on to other women who come to the retreats. And hopefully soon, after, as soon as this pandemic passes or eases. And without it, I just don't think I would have felt that sense of belonging, and I want to pass that along to other women and tell them how much God loves them, and that there's no judgment, and that there is a place where they belong, and that they're loved. Thank you.
We're so grateful to you, Jody, for sharing your story with us tonight. As Jody mentioned, often the most meaningful thing that happens during an ISP retreat or reflection session is that someone realizes, I am not alone. Someone feels like they belong. On retreat, there is a sense of belonging to a broader community, which increases motivation, hope, and happiness. When you see your connection to others, you know that all people struggle and have difficult times. You are not alone, and there is comfort in this knowledge. What ISP does best is provide the opportunities, whether through overnight retreats or hour-long spiritual reflection sessions, for participants to experience that belonging and connection, to access hope and feel empowered by that hope to make better decisions and reclaim their lives. Isn't that right, Tom?
That's right, Amanda. As I mentioned earlier, ISP is needed now more than ever. We know that the pandemic is causing increases in both addiction and homelessness across the country. People struggling with addiction are more susceptible to COVID-19 and its complications. Substance abuse is rising as folks already struggling are looking for ways to cope. And we can expect that pandemic-related increases in job loss, evictions, mental health, and addiction will contribute to higher homelessness rates across the country. An abundance of resources will be needed to serve these individuals. ISP will be there to provide care for the interior and spiritual lives of those recovering from homelessness and addiction, a crucial component of their care and recovery.
We are asking you to consider a donation tonight that will support the work of ISP now and into the future. We are not biding our time during COVID. We are continuing to offer online spiritual reflection in many locations. And when we launch our app, we'll be able to reach even more alumni and participants. And we know that when this is all over, our programs will be in high demand. We are thrilled to announce that through the generosity of a few of our loyal benefactors, we have a special $25,000 Company of Grace matching gift. If we can meet this match, together we'll have raised $50,000 to help ISP continue to conduct virtual programming, as well as ensure we are poised and ready to launch our in-person programs and retreats as soon as it is safe to do so.
We would be so grateful for your investment. If you are able to make a gift to ISP, you can do it on our Company of Grace webpage, where you registered for the event. The web address is right here, as well as in the description for the event, right below this live stream, if you are watching it on Facebook. Thank you for your generous support of our ministry. And of course, a bit of thanks to all those who have already made a Company of Grace gift.
Well, everyone, tonight has flown by. I think it's safe to say our first virtual ever event has been a success. We are so grateful you joined us tonight, and we hope you are leaving a little more inspired and a little more connected to the ISP community. Thank you for your support and your presence this evening.
Special thanks to Sister Helen Prejean, Jody, and our many sponsors, and you, Amanda. And I also want to thank Catherine Ruffing-Dratliff and Becca Rousseau for their hard work on this live stream broadcast. It hasn't been an easy go, but they did the work, they did the research, and we got a great program tonight. This live stream will also be available on our Facebook, YouTube, and website. So feel free to revisit and share with anyone who might be interested in our mission and ministry. Again, thank you. You've made this Company of Grace one to remember.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
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 you.
Thanks, everyone.